be ready.
Okay. Guillermo was having a little bit of trouble getting in.
Uh-oh. Does he need the link emailed to you?
I sent it to him, so I'm seeing if he's gotten it.
And we are now live on YouTube. We're broadcasting live on both YouTube and Facebook now.
Good morning.
How are you all doing this morning?
I'm good. How are you?
Good.
Good morning.
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 Oh. It's me. Ooh.
For those of you on Facebook or YouTube, we're just waiting for additional board members to get here. We'll be starting in just a few minutes.
Oh, yeah, there.
Debbie, what's the latest on Guillermo?
I called him. He's trying. Have you seen anything?
Ah,
I sent him the link.
would you like Kathy to try to help him?
If she could, that would probably be great, Kathy.
Could you chat in the chat box, just do direct chat to her with his phone number?
Mhm.
And we are at 9:01. Whenever you want to get started, you can.
Okay. Call the meeting to order. I will call the Sunset Empire Transportation District meeting to order for September 25th at 9:02. And so there we go. Mary, would you take roll call, please?
Yes. One moment, sorry.
It's the 23rd, not the 25th.
Thank you, Pam. 23rd.
Oh, I don't know. Okay. Okay. Commissioner McDonald,
Here,
Commissioner Alegria,
Here,
Commissioner Reed, she is excused. Commissioner Withers,
Present.
Commissioner Bouchmet,
Here.
and then Commissioner Romero.
He's trying.
Okay, all righty, thank you.
Okay.
I didn't hear Steve. I didn't hear.
Did you call on me, Mary?
Okay, Nino.
I'm here. Good morning.
Good morning. Commissioner Nino, so sorry, I skipped right over you, sorry.
You're fine, Mary. Good morning.
Okay. So we'll move on to changes to the agenda. Is there any changes to the agenda?
Staff doesn't have any.
Okay. All right. Do we need a motion to pass the agenda if there's nothing? Okay. So we'll move on to public comment. Jeff, did you have anything? Mary?
I have not received anything.
No.
Nope. All right. This is going to be easy. Approval of board minutes for the meeting of August 26th.
I move to approve the minutes of August 26th. Commissioner Alegria.
Okay. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, thank you. And I just had one correction, and that's Rebecca Reed's name. Should be R-E-E-D.
Thank you.
And that was the only thing that I had noticed. Any other? Okay, Mary, would you do a roll call vote on passing this?
Okay. Commissioner McDonald,
aye.
Commissioner Alegria,
Aye.
Commissioner Withers,
Yes.
Commissioner Bouchmet,
Yes.
Commissioner Nino,
Yes.
and then
Okay.
Commissioner Romero, is he still? Commissioner Romero?
Not on yet.
Okay, I'll check with him.
Okay. So the minutes for our meeting on August 26th passes unanimously. And we will move on to the financials. Hi, Kelly.
Any questions for me?
I didn't have any.
Pamela?
Pamela?
On page 8, why isn't the QuickBooks canceled? Number 8031
We had
under
still
expense.
been using that. We had still been using that service when we first transitioned over, and it didn't get canceled. I'm working on getting it canceled now.
Okay, great. Then on page 9, 4315, mass transit assessment. I don't understand why there isn't any revenue this month.
It doesn't happen every month. That's funding from the state, but we don't get that every month.
Okay, is
I
there
believe
like
it's quarterly.
quarterly? Okay, great. Okay, and page 11. There's I just don't, perhaps I have a lesson in some of what this means. So under liabilities 2010, you have the accounts payable system, which I understand. So I thought that was the whole kit and caboodle of accounts payable. And then you have 2099 accounts payable conversion. There was the same situation with accounts receivable. So I don't, and I see that it's off the accounts receivable. And what did that mean that you took it off? That it was, and I know you're working very hard on the new program.
I will reach out to the auditor on the accounts payable conversion. The accounts receivable conversion was part of when we got our new system, and it just wasn't updated properly. And I'm going to guess that the AP conversion is the same. So I'll reach out to him and ask about that.
Okay, and the other thing, which may be my ignorance, is when under the liabilities, what does it mean when they're in parentheses, when the figures are in parentheses?
It's a credit.
Credit.
Pardon? A debit?
It's a credit.
A credit? Okay. And, okay. And then, okay, the fund balance. Never mind. Okay, that's it.
Anybody else?
Oh, wait, I do have a question. This is what I don't understand. So why is it a debit on liabilities? I mean, a credit, excuse me. It is a credit. I thought, okay, well, I'll look at it again.
Okay. Deanna?
Yes, thank you. So on page 12, the first 3 items, 6251 from Amtrak. So it seems that they owe us back from July. Is that it?
Amtrak is always about 60 days behind. They just seem to fall consistently. I received payment just recently on the July one.
Got it. So then when it says, because the due date is in July on the first one, for example, but then the description, it says May 2021 settlement. So how does that work? That something from May gets billed in July?
It runs through the entire month of May, and so it gets billed July 1.
Oh, okay. Got it.
Yeah.
All right, thank you. That's it for me.
If I could interject here, I just want to note that Commissioner Romero is in the meeting now.
Okay.
Thank you. I did have one question for you, Kelly, and maybe
Okay.
it's just that my math is off. So on page 10, bottom line, excess revenue over under expenditures. The last three entries there, shouldn't it, is that correct? To me, it looks odd. Everything else added up correctly, but those three numbers look weird, look like they're off to me. And I know it's an automatic thing, so
Which numbers, Debbie?
Which one?
the very last three under year-to-date, actual year-to-date budget and the variance on the revenue or excess revenue, very, very bottom line. If you take the year-to-date minus the actual, however you want to work it, it equals the variance on all those lines except for that very bottom line.
Mhm.
You are correct.
So you're questioning why the expenses don't equal the revenue.
The year-to-date, if I think the variance is wrong in that, but I don't know for sure.
Okay, so if you look on page number 9, under total revenues, under year-to-date actual, you'll see a dollar amount of $724,520.57.
Okay.
And then page 10, you'll see down towards the bottom, you'll see total expenses year-to-date, $772,923.94. And then that last line is the difference between the expenses and the revenues. And because our expenses were higher than our revenues, that's why it shows in brackets the $48,000, $48,403.37. That's
Okay,
the difference. They'll never be zero.
right.
Just because of timing of receiving grants and, when we get that income, the reimbursements, it'll never be zero each month.
The income, are you looking at the variance year to date, Debbie?
Yes.
So it's our total revenues minus our total expenses is that
Okay.
variance.
Okay.
So
All right.
it matches.
Okay. Thank you. It just
You're welcome.
looked off to me. So, okay. Thank you very much for explaining that. Okay. Any other questions on the finances? All right. I would entertain a motion to approve finances as presented.
I move to approve the finances as presented for the month of July. No,
Okay.
August.
Okay. Thank you. And a second.
I'll second.
Thank you, Tracy. Mary, would you do a roll call for us, please?
Commissioner McDonald,
Aye.
Commissioner Alegria,
Aye.
Commissioner Withers,
Aye.
Commissioner Bushmet,
Aye.
Commissioner Nino,
Aye.
Commissioner Romero.
Aye.
All right. Reports from chair and commissioners. Let's start with Tracy McDonald.
I have not a large report this month. I did a little more writing, and I have signed up for our presentation today. So Kathy can please help me know how I'm going to do this. So wherever I'm walking. Okay. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Deanna?
So I just want to say here at the meeting that we are in the middle of Hispanic Heritage Month, which goes from September 15th to October 15th. And then I am starting to, get onto my duties as secretary treasurer, and Kelly and Donna have been very kind on teaching me and helping me figure this out. Thank you, Tracy. It's more often than I thought, every other week. So I'm getting the hang of it. And I just want to give a shout out to Donna Baganin. I'm sure I'm butchering her last name. She's our payroll and accounting clerk, and she is super organized and just very precise. And I really appreciate that. That's it for me.
Thank you. Pamela?
I registered for Get There and watched the Rogue Valley video.
All right. Charles?
No report, Madam Chair.
Okay. Guillermo? Oops, you're on mute. Guillermo? You're muted, sorry.
Oh,
There
I
you
just
go.
want to say good morning. I'm glad to be here, and I'm having an issue with my vision, and I discovered that I need my cardiacs out, so I'm getting lined up for that.
All right. Okay. All right, and I just had a short report. I did attend the SDAO workshop over the 2 days. And as always, as many times as I go to any of the trainings, even if they're repeats, I still pick up different things that always helps that I may have missed the time before. And just as a review and a reminder, I have started going through that big notebook that we all received when we become commissioners. And I would like to suggest that when you have a chance, go back through the policies, review things. It's real easy to look at them the first time when we first get it and then not pick it up again. And I think it's a good idea to go through and especially review policies.
Good idea.
When you have a chance. All right, that's all of my report today. And we'll move on to continued business. And we'll start with the in-person board meetings.
All right, so this is a continuation of the conversations that the board has been having for the last couple of months. Things changed from when we first started talking about it in July. The variant really took hold and, put the brakes on things again. So it's just been kind of carried over from meeting to meeting. And at last month's meeting, the board, reached a consensus that they weren't going to make a decision, that month, and to continue the discussion to the September 23rd, today's meeting. I did put in my report that on September 16th, the TSA announced that the mask requirement was updated and will expire now on January 18th. And then I also included a September 16th Daily Astorian article that was in the paper about local hospitals are seeing a decline, for whatever that really means, is really up to you. It was just kind of informational. I think some of the concerns that, that I heard about going back live before the mask requirement, and it would be very difficult for people to hear, and I'm one of those people because I do better with my hearing loss to be able to see people. I can't read lips, but it certainly helps me and be able to comprehend what people are saying. So it's up to the board what they want to do now. If you want to just postpone this, table it, go ahead and go back to live meetings, whatever you want to do, we'll work with you. So I'll leave it to you guys.
Deanna, I see you took yourself off of mute. Do you have suggestions?
Yeah, so if we resumed meetings in person, they would be on our regular meeting space at the Astoria Transit Office.
Correct.
How is the ventilation in there? Like, is there any way that we can do spacing? Because we might be pretty tight if we did that too.
That would be very challenging. If we were to do that, I would not have staff in the room just to free up some space for the public. But with spacing, you could probably fit 2, maybe 3 public members in the room itself. I think with the configuration of the tables, that we can make, because it's pretty close to being 6 foot apart at this point.
Because I think that it's been so positive that now we have it on Facebook and that kind of thing. So if we have masks and on top of that, we're socially distanced, it's going to be really hard to transmit this and actually make it accessible. So I'm kind of maybe proposing that we have 2 more meetings. We have the October and then we'll have our joint November, December. Maybe we can take it up in the new year. Just, finish up what's the rest of this year, see how things continue to progress. And then hopefully in 2022, that's when we see each other in person again.
I agree with that. Because it will be hard for a lot of us to hear with masks on and to get it transmitted properly.
Yeah, we're not going to, like the microphones, it's going to be really hard for those microphones to pick up the sound.
I agree.
Madam Chairman, I'd like to just table, as the director suggested, we'll move to table.
Until 2022?
Correct.
Second Tracy's motion.
Do we want to
Tracy
take?
made a motion, didn't you think?
Yeah, table motion, yes.
Okay. And a second?
I second the Tracy's motion.
Okay, thank you, Charles. And Mary, do you want to do a roll call vote?
Certainly. Commissioner McDonald,
Aye.
Commissioner Alegria,
Aye.
Commissioner Withers,
Aye.
Commissioner Booth Smith.
Aye.
Commissioner Nino,
Hi.
Commissioner Romero.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so we'll visit this again in our first meeting of 2022 then. Mandatory vaccinations.
All right, this is another continuation of an item that we touched on somewhat last month. Couple of updates. You probably are aware that the president has made it a requirement for private, well, it says private employers of over 100 people that they mandate a mask program with their employees. This will affect government employees in Oregon as well, due to the state having a state OSHA plan. There are some states that don't have a state OSHA plan, and so they directly follow the federal OSHA plan. So what happens is the federal OSHA program is in the process of writing the temporary rule for this direction from the president. Once that's done, then those states that have their own OSHA plan have to either adopt that federal requirement or write new rules, but they have to be at least as strict as the federal rules. So again, this just covers employees that are employers that have over 100 employees. Special Districts Association feels that this will roll down because we have a state OSHA plan. It will roll down to government employers as well. We're not affected because we only, we have less than 50 employees, so we don't meet that threshold. We had this conversation before, and I know some board members have strong feelings about it. Some have concerns, obviously staff were very concerned with while we have a good vaccination rate of 80%, we do have about 9 people left that aren't vaccinated. And those, I believe, are all drivers. And if I put out that survey to the unvaccinated people, and I put the responses. We only got 3, but I put that in your board pack so you can see what their answers were. If you were to extend that out to all 9 people, we would lose all 9 people if we put a vaccine mandate in place. And if that were to happen, then we would have to cut service again and go even deeper than what we did earlier this month. I noted in my report that Rogue Valley Transportation District, Pamela mentioned that she watched that video from their last meeting. They met last night, and I sat in on that meeting, and it was a very good meeting. I thought it was great because the board had invited the ATU 757 to be present. And so their president, Shirley Block, their vice president, Fred, I can't remember his last name, and then their labor attorney, Krista, they were all present at the meeting, and they all spoke. And, made a very compelling case that, they should have been involved. It shouldn't have been a surprise last month at the board meeting that this got brought up, that they should have been involved from the beginning. So they all 3 talked. In fact, their labor attorney got very emotional about it because, we're dealing with lives, obviously. And all 3 of them, they said, we're vaccinated and we strongly recommend all our members to be vaccinated. Kind of in line with what the FTA has done. The FTA hasn't mandated this, but they've said, they strongly encouraged agencies to, keep strongly recommending the unvaccinated people to get vaccinated. After the union leadership was talking, several employees were given the opportunity to speak to the board. And they did a great job. I was really impressed. And I was texting Julie, my counterpart down there, about that's very compelling to hear from the employees. And the first person that spoke probably had the biggest impact on the board because he spoke why he's not vaccinated. It's a religious conviction. And it's very close to him. And he did a great job explaining his feelings and his beliefs and what would happen. And other people talked about different things, not necessarily religious, but it was just their feelings about the vaccination in whole. And so at the end, the board discussed it, and they even referenced the first employee that talked, and they were hesitant to move on voting for the resolution that staff had prepared. So they ended up tabling it until next month's meeting because they wanted to have more conversations with the union. They wanted to, or have staff have more conversations with the union. They wanted to, and I didn't get to see the resolution, so I don't know what all was in it, but there was some concern about there wasn't an emphasis on testing within the resolution. So I think they were going to rework some of those things. And so that's where it lies. They're not doing a mandatory vaccination. The first motion was to, postpone it until next month's meeting. But then they had discussion about, well, what if we postpone it until the federal government comes out with a mandate for us, or until those rules are in place, because they would be affected by that. But when they ended up taking the vote, it was a split vote, and they just postponed it until next month's meeting. So, so that's it. My request at the bottom of my report is, if the board wants to move forward with mandatory vaccinations, we're going to need some time to develop a policy, also work with the union, also work with our attorney to make sure we've crossed all the T's and dotted all the I's. And, if we were to go to a mandatory or testing, we need to procure the testing supplies. So with that, that's that's my update. I don't want to cut any more service.
I agree with you. I am concerned about the rider or the drivers that are not getting vaccinated for their health. At this point, it is their decision. And I would hate to cut services too. And I'm afraid that's what would happen if we did make it mandatory.
You know, and I will say that, you know, like Rogue Valley Transportation District, you know, all transit agencies, we had to put protections in place. You know, all our drivers are masked up. We put barriers in on all the buses. People can't sit within 6 feet of the driver. So there are steps that we've taken and we've continued to take to protect the drivers as much as possible.
Charles?
Madam Chair, is there a way that we probably have to institute a testing, I guess, procedure, but can we, some locations, if you're not vaccinated, before you enter into the workplace, you need to be either tested or if nothing else, given a temperature scan or some type. It's almost personal to me now. There's 5 members of my family in Texas that have died from coronavirus. So I'm passionate about not passing it on to other people, right? So it's my minimum, I think, and I don't want to lose drivers either. I don't want to cut service. But at the minimum, we can't introduce those drivers to our passengers without some sort of testing before they come in contact with our drivers or something. I just think there's no vaccination, it's got to be tested. I think that's.
Yeah, and you know, I share your concern. You know, as far as testing goes, you know, it would have to be. This is something else we'd have to work with the union on. I know that Rogue Valley, rather than just being weekly testing, they're in what program they would have stood up, it would have been 3 times a week testing. So that's, you know, that's above anybody else that I've heard, but I kind of agree with it, because if you take a test on a Monday, you don't find out, you know, for a while, you're going to be around a lot of people and that spread could happen, or you could get something. So I think by doing it 3 times a week, they're really staying on top of it. So, you know, we have the ability to secure, you know, the rapid test. The accuracy of those tests is about, you know, I think it's 58% or so accuracy, but at least it gives you something. And, you know, if somebody were to test positive, then they could, in that test, then they could go get another test at another facility that's not a rapid test, but, you know, because the rapid test, you get a result in about 15 minutes. So it's not as comprehensive as the.
Now we're finished on that, Madam Chair.
Go ahead.
Additionally, so some folks I know work at small clinics and they get the temporal temperature scan, which isn't invasive or anything. At a minimum, I think the fever and the temperature increase is almost a symptom across the board, other than some asymptomatic people. At a minimum, at least a temporal scan of temperature of those who are unvaccinated. That's all.
Thank you, Charles. Guillermo?
Some of you know I work for Department of Human Services, Child Welfare, and I'm the union steward in that shop and have been a union steward there for, God, almost 9 years. And some of you might know that the governor mandated all state employees to be vaccinated by October 18th. So right now, as a union steward, I've already had one hearing on the issue, or not a hearing, but a meeting with HR with somebody in labor about their religious beliefs. And so one of the things that we are looking in terms of statewide as a union is periodic testing. And one of the issues that we're running into is in terms of the availability of testing. And of course, you know, that whole thing of accuracy. And somebody was going to look into the rapid testing, which I don't know anything about, but it is a significant issue. And I think the bottom line for us is, you know, of course, providing safety and services for our customers, which is the balancing act. And again, the significant issue of and respecting those employees with their beliefs in not having a vaccination for whatever reason. So it's a tough one, and I when I was reading my packet, I didn't know that bus drivers have a union. Is that correct?
Mhm.
Oh,
Yep.
and so I guess it depends on. It's a tough issue, and I think it's a matter of looking at some data, and in my opinion, based on what I've looked at, you know, things aren't going to get any better for a long time. But again, it's a matter of safety for our employees and safety for our customers, at the same time continue to provide that service in any way we can. And if that includes some extra cost on our behalf for testing, you know, that's my position on it. I would hate to see anybody lose their job or be in a position. I'll tell you this, one of my coworkers who I'm representing as a steward said, Guillermo, I love my job, but I also hold tight to my religious beliefs. And if they want to fire me, that's okay. And I think that's the position of a lot of folks. Thank you.
Yeah, and it was really neat to hear from the employees down at Rogue Valley, because most of them referenced, you know, we're a family here, you know, and we feel the same way here at our district, that, you know, all our employees, we're all family. And to have that division is really difficult. And having, you know, their board members last week, there was a couple of them very convicted about, yes, we should have a mandated vaccination. Otherwise, the employees can just hit the street. And that just was so negative for all the employees down there. It was very unfortunate.
Deanna, Pam, I'll get you next.
So as of now, we are in compliance. We don't have over 100 employees. And I think that so far we have been doing a very good job at cleaning, like continuously cleaning the buses, having that barrier that separates the drivers from our riders. Also, they're 6 foot apart. Like, there's all of these things that we have already put in place. And yeah, I'm vaccinated. I am, you know, all for vaccination, but like the sentiment that's been shared, I don't want us to put anyone in the position of having to quit because of this, and us losing service, losing drivers, and also disrupting this family that Jeff has been talking about. You know, I think we've had such rough almost 2 years, and this would just continue to bring down morale. They have been working 6 days a week. Like, they've been troopers. Our drivers have been troopers, and people have choice, you know, like we also have to respect that. And so I think that definitely if we could do temperature checks, if we could have a testing policy, that we do that. As of now, the climate is still, you know, nice and pleasant, so we can keep all of the windows open. So if those drivers are disciplined about always wearing their mask above, you know, nose and mouth and keeping the barrier, like if they are consistent and disciplined in doing those things, I think we can let it happen, at least until it's a state or federal mandate. And also, we could maybe talk with public health to have like an what's the word in English? Standing, like appointments that they can do the testing or something like that. So that instead of having to call and make an appointment each time, that if there's a standing date that our drivers can go and get tested either weekly and having some rapid testing at hand, like Jeff said, so that we have that first and then they can go on the second if they need to get more tested. I think we can keep it the way we are doing right now. And then once the climate gets colder and we have to start closing those windows, then we might have to reconsider, because then the air circulation would be an issue. So that's what I think.
Thanks. Pamela?
I'm a strong supporter of the vaccinations. And what we now face is protecting the public and protecting our workers and respecting how our workers feel. I think that mandatory testing would help alleviate some of the concerns, because it's not just in the bus that the bus drivers are going, they're associating outside the bus. And so that's why it's really important, even though you have a very clean sanitary buses, you need to consider that these 9 people are going out into the community. Therefore, to have mandatory testing and to contact people who are in the know, so we don't have information that is a little sketchy or not right. There's enough misinformation out there. So to talk to the county public works, talk to the OHA, and to develop a policy, not a policy, a procedure for the vaccine, because like sometimes the Columbia Memorial is not even using temperature, so testing. So maybe you need a stronger testing because of it, and especially because you have the Delta variant.
Tracy?
I'm doing a part-time employment. My employer has required masks, and they do a temperature check every day that I come to work. I am pass, no pass, and if I have a deviation from that temperature, I go home. They pay me to go home. They still pay me that I came in. I think that it's only fair that we try at least that in material. And I also agree that people need to have their own space and their own judgment as to whether or not they have vaccination. But we could do some minimal testing, and I feel we should do that. Thank you.
Charles?
Yeah, Madam Chair, I had a follow-up question for Director Hazen. Do the drivers who are opposed to the vaccine, are they also opposed to testing? I've read there's a combination of folks out there that are opposed to anything having to do with the process.
And I don't know.
At a minimum, we need to know that, because if they're against testing or against the vaccination, I don't know what we can do to keep the public safe. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Pamela?
Does any decision that we make go through the union?
Probably.
Well, yeah, I mean, any decision that the board makes, we would have to negotiate with the union for their represented members.
What is the union's opinion on what we should do? The union leadership, not the driver.
They respect their members' opinions and feelings about the vaccinations, whether it's for religious, political, or otherwise. They just want to make sure that they're at the table and helping to formulate a program that's fair and just for all. You look at some of the mandates that are out there, that whether it's government or federal or state government, some it's cut and dry. Either you get the vaccine or you're done. You can't work there. I think that's how healthcare is. Other mandates are it's an either or, whether, okay, if you don't want the vaccine, you have to get tested. So there's that option. And it just, again, the union will want to, have a voice in that. And we would work well with them. We have a good relationship with our union. So, it's still kind of out there on what the governor may do. If she puts something out, and I haven't heard any buzz lately on what, if she's going to extend something to transit workers, that's unknown. Everybody's kind of waiting to see what the Oregon OSHA rules are going to come out, because they'll cover a lot of this stuff. They'll cover the temperature checks. They'll cover the testing program as well. And again, that's, we're probably a month and a half out from knowing what those rules are going to look like. Because I think the federal government rules, federal OSHA rules, will be out possibly by the end of this month, late next week. That's not a firm timeline. And then the state would have 30 days to respond. And I would say, in the meantime, maybe what we could do, until we see what those kind of requirements are going to come down, because I would assume that, or I would think, this is just my crystal ball, that once Oregon OSHA comes up with rules, then the governor may look at those rules and want to extend those out to transit agencies. So, but maybe in the meantime, what we could do, we've got some temporal scanners that we could make available to the employees, and maybe not do it as a mandate now, but make that available. And then we could also, I can secure some rapid tests and make those available to any employee that would like them at this point. So kind of make it a voluntary type thing. And then we can ask that question of those that aren't vaccinated. If testing is available, would you do that in lieu of mandatory vaccination?
I think that's a good idea. And I think we might in the future, I don't want to do it real soon, but I think we may have to look toward a policy on testing or temperatures.
Yeah,
for folks that aren't vaccinated. So I think that needs to be on our radar.
Yeah, and staff can go ahead. We can go ahead and start looking at a testing policy and drafting something. So we have something ready for whenever.
I think that's a good idea. Guillermo?
Yeah, one thing that I know when I read this, there's some incentives to get vaccinated. Maybe we can consider some incentives to at least encourage them to participate in testing if that is an issue. That's just a friendly suggestion.
Okay, anything else on this? Should we leave it on the agenda for our next meeting also? Updates on it?
Yeah, I think that'd be
Okay.
appropriate.
And I just had one question about the union. The union that represents our drivers or our workers, is it a state or is it multiple states, national? What's their coverage area?
The Amalgamated Transit Union covers a lot of transit agencies across the state. And they have in the state of Oregon, I had that number down. I'm looking at my notes from last night. Paul, maybe you remember how many. I think it's in the teens or maybe close to 20 properties in the state.
Because then if you have conversations with them, that might give us also an idea on, statewide, how are other districts handling this, so that we can also, that can also help us into the policy of testing or, that kind of, those.
Sure.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Moving on to driver shortage.
All right, just a update, Sue noted in her report, they've hired a new driver. And actually this driver used to work for us many years ago, way before my time and actually before Mary's time, we think. So it's good to have her back. She'll be a quick learn, just to learn the routes again. She had already done all the steps to get her CDL back. So we look forward to having her with us. Sue and Jason attended a job fair that was held down at the parking lot by Burger King on last week on the 15th. Wasn't very well attended, but interesting enough, Sue did speak to one individual who was just paroled. And she let them know about the program we're looking at setting up. And I'll talk more about that later. Last week, the FDA released a discretionary grant funded by the American Rescue Plan. So I was looking at our ability to apply for it. We are not eligible because we have not spent enough of the recovery money already. That we've already got. So, but there will be other opportunities through the ARP money that the federal government has passed out to the states. We'll probably know more about that next month. And so, I'm going to be looking at those and, seeing what kind of a grant we can write, because our biggest issue, like other transit agency, is lack of drivers and lack of people applying. So if we can get a good enough grant, I want to attack this from all sides by, looking at increasing the wages of employees, looking at sign-on bonuses, which we haven't done before, and then increasing the employee referral bonus. Currently, an employee can get up to $1,000 by referring somebody to get hired by us. And so maybe we make that really nice. So we got to play around with it and see what kind of dollar amounts I can put to it. But I want to be pretty aggressive. Just to really make it attractive to come work for us. So I'll have more on that as we move on.
Okay, thank you. Pamela?
The National Guard has helped out in certain places during the pandemic. Is there a possibility that they could be bus drivers at a temporary basis until the positions are filled?
I've never thought of that. I know that a lot of them have been mobilized for assisting in hospitals, and that's where their focus is right now. I don't know.
Also, school, they've done some
have they?
Bus driving. I don't know in this town, but they have anyway.
I hadn't heard they were helping schools with the bus driving thing.
And I may have the wrong state.
I'll look into that and see.
Deanna?
So Jeff, I just wanted a clarification of what you wrote about what the changes that could be implemented to make it attractive for getting employees. So on the last one that it says a significant increase in wages for 2 years for all employees. Is that after 2 years of employment that their wages go up considerably, or it's a general increase for everybody for the duration of 2 years?
That's the piece, a duration of 2 years, because the grant, we only have so much time to spend the grant money. And so if it's defined, like when we got the initial shot of CARES Act funds, those first 3 months in the spring of last year, everybody got hazard pay. That was working, but it was only for that 3-month period because we spent that grant down rather quickly.
So everybody would win with this. That's
yeah, but then that's the other thing. At the end of the period, then it, that money goes away. So it has to be, everybody has to know up front that, okay, this is what you're going to get. Or maybe we look at it differently. Maybe we just do a bonus, just a flat bonus. So those are the different angles I'll be looking at. And the other thing to kind of complicate it just a little bit is we'll be doing negotiations with the union for an updated agreement. So that'll fall in this timeline. So there's things I got to figure out.
When does the union negotiations start? Do you have a date? Yep.
We don't have. Yeah.
Okay. Pamela, I saw your hand.
Would there be a time, period of time that they have to work before they received any of this?
Haven't got that far into it.
To prevent people getting money and then go, bye-bye.
Yeah. Like with the employee referral program, it's not, you refer an employee and that person starts, you don't get $1,000. It's incremental. Like they get a portion of it, I think $250. If the person passes their training period, they get another $250 if they pass their 6-month probation period. And then after they've worked for us for a year, then they get the balance of $500. We would do something similar with a sign-on bonus. We're not going to have somebody apply, we hire them and then give them, $5, $10, $15, $20,000. We're not going to do that. It would be incremental. So
that would be explicitly presented to the recipient.
Absolutely. And that's generally, what I've seen out there. People don't give them all the money up front because, take the money and run is what you indicated, and we don't want that to happen.
So the cautionary, like if when they have their license, what if you give them money right then? What they can just go that with another job.
Right.
Can that be extended? In other words, they have to do say 3 months as a driver before they're.
And that's how we would make incremental steps. So at the end of, whatever length of time, whether it's 1 year, 2 years, and I may look at 2 years, if it's a significant bonus, I wouldn't be happy with just a year, and maybe 2 years if they have to work for us.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep. Deanna?
So I know that we have a shortage of drivers. Do we have a shortage on any other employees in other departments?
Not this time. We just did a recruitment for a couple of positions, and we've filled those positions. So no. Now, one of the other things that I see Charles' hands up.
I have a question. Someone asked me, I was sort of talking about the jobs available. They have to have their CDL, or we would train them to help them get the CDL if they were a qualified applicant.
That's correct.
And those people would start out at the minimum number on the salary range.
Potentially. We have started people at a higher rate than the bottom just because we need people. And so, we look at their experience, whether, if they've been a driver before, we bring them in a higher rate. But maybe somebody comes in, if they have experience other ways, like they're great customer service people, we may bring them in at a higher than the base rate.
I guess one of the reasons I asked that, because what I noticed is in any sort of job application process, no one sees the low number. They always see the high number. And so they ask, so they're paying 21, whatever it is, posted an hour. And I said, well, it depends on the experience. But as far as no CDL, that's another question I've been asking. And if they're clean license and a good, so explain to me what you would think would be a good person without a CDL license, what the applicant would look like.
They're going to be, in my mind, they're going to be somebody that doesn't work at a place for 1 year at a time and then go on to another job and hop jobs. That they have a good history of staying with an employer for multiple years. That says a lot to me. They're not hopscotching from employer to employer. That wouldn't be a good fit for us because we spend a lot of time and money training people. And so we want them to commit to working for us for quite a while.
So job stability is paramount. And what about age?
Age isn't a factor for us.
So you could be 17, you could be 18 and get a CDL and have a driver's license?
Yeah. There's one caveat with 18-year-old CDLs. They can't be interstate drivers, but if they're intrastate drivers where they just drive in Oregon, they can be 18.
An 18-year-old asked me. That's why I was asking. Thank you very much.
Pamela?
Would, if they do a hop, just skip off after a short period of time, or would they be responsible for repaying the district for the money that's been spent on them?
No.
So Jeff, I just had one question, and it has to do with the sign-on bonuses. So you get a new employee, he gets his sign-on bonus. What are the other drivers getting? Because I know other places that employees can be really discouraged when you're signing on a new employee. He's getting $1,000 bonus after a year or whatever. What are we doing to compensate our current drivers if that happens?
And that's why I brought up, maybe instead of increasing their wages, we do a bonus. So it kind of goes parallel with that sign-on bonus. So we can recognize our existing employees saying, you guys have done a great job with us through this whole time. Here's a bonus for you. We appreciate the work that you do and hope that you'll continue to work for us. Yeah. We want to make it fair. I would never want to give a new employee a bonus and not offer something to our existing employees. That would not be right.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And I'm sure your drivers would appreciate that too. So, yeah. Okay. All right.
Now let me touch on something else.
Mm-hmm.
So, Paul and I have been doing a lot of talking, and I think I mentioned it in my board report about, microtransit. And it's a different model of providing service. I had looked into microtransit several years ago. I was at a conference in Denver and sat in on a lengthy presentation about it. But it was really, back then, it was really geared towards urban systems. And microtransit is kind of like a mobility on demand. And not that it's exactly like it, but think of Uber or Lyft, where somebody needs a ride, they use their phone, their smartphone or whatever device they have to request a ride. Along the same lines, we could set up something like that. So, and it could be really, it could be a mixture of our fixed routes and microtransit. It could be, switching to most of our service being microtransit. with microtransit, you end up using smaller vehicles.
Mhm.
And, one of the barriers we have is having CDL holders. With the smaller vehicles, and a small vehicle is defined as less than 16 seats, you don't need a CDL to operate that vehicle. So maybe that would improve our ability to attract drivers. I don't know. Now, as far as the microtransit, it can be, if somebody requested a ride, we would want to make sure that we have a system that could pick them up within 30 minutes so they don't have a long wait time. And it could be they get picked. So we're just starting to look into this. I was going to do a presentation today on it, but Paul and I met with one company, but I don't want to just give one company's view. So I want to look at some other companies and have a better idea before we move on this. And I'm not saying that we're going to move on this because it's got to make fiscal sense for the district. It's got to be efficient, and it's got to, obviously be good for the riders. If I think about, the option of riding a fixed route bus or being able to call or use my app to get picked up by my house, that's pretty attractive, in a smaller vehicle. So we're starting to research this and look into it. The company that we dealt with via, they worked with Lane Transit District and set up microtransit service down in Cottage Grove. And then they also showed some examples of some other rural agencies throughout the country that they've worked with. And pretty impressive results, ridership results in those areas. So more to come on that. Again, that's another one of those things that, if we switch our model and switch our, requirement to have CDLs, that's obviously something that we're going to have to negotiate with the union as well, because that would change that would change everything. So we may end up going to a 2-tier, non-CDL or CDL. That'll have to be worked out. So, All right.
That sounds very exciting, very exciting.
Yes,
Well, it's really cool because I was kind of pumped up about it several years ago, but then everything, again, it was all geared towards urban areas. And now seeing companies move to suburban and rural areas, it's like, okay, let's take another look at this. So yeah.
Charles?
Just the location I moved to from had already started it. They're a tourist sort of spot, and what happened is they didn't have Uber or Link, so they got a lot of tourists who wanted to go up to the next city over and have drinks and eat, but didn't want to drive home. So they treated it like Uber, and it worked really well for them. So,
Yeah, and kind of my initial vision, when Paul and I were first talking about this a couple of weeks ago, is, maybe, we keep our Route 101, our main route, north-south from here down to Seaside. And then we put microtransit in each of the communities, have it in Astoria, have it in Warrenton, have it in Seaside, and have it down in Cannon Beach. So they can feed that fixed route, that main route. That's one vision. There's so many different options that we could do with it, but it's got to come down to the cost. It's got to be, affordable within our budget that we currently operate. So it could be a very exciting process for us. It will be an exciting process to go through it and do some modeling and see if it would work out here. And the other thing is, another option is maybe, we have our fixed routes, all our different fixed routes, but maybe in the evenings or early mornings, we don't need to run those fixed route buses. Maybe we could do microtransit during those early mornings and evening, and then have the fixed route operating during the day. It's really, you can really customize it to how, what suits the district and what you can afford to do.
So we would be contracting a company, like subcontracting a company that provides the service, or do we provide it?
No, we would provide it. I don't,
So what, would it be on demand? Like, what would be the difference versus dial a ride?
it would be kind of like Dial a Ride, but an upgraded version. There would be an app for the phone, and software to do the dispatching of the vehicle. So if a driver is out in a microtransit small vehicle, they'll have a tablet, and when somebody requests a ride, the tablet's going to tell them, go pick this person up at this time. So much like
Very interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to your presentation to understand more of how it works.
Yeah, and Paul and I have to learn a lot more too.
Yeah.
Yes.
I will say they will not be paying $1 for that micro transit ride there.
Oh, maybe not. I don't know. That's one thing we have to consider.
That would even be better.
And yeah, it'll be interesting to see.
Right. Thank you. Moving on, new business.
All right, Kathy's here, going to be doing a presentation on the Get There Challenge that's coming up starting on October 4th. As you'll recall, last year, our then board chair, Tamara, was one of the prize winners. So you really need to get involved because you could win a prize, you could get prizes through this. We're rolling out some advertising for this. We worked with both Eastern Oregonian, which is the Daily Astorian group, to do some ads, I think both print and virtual ads. We also worked with Country Media, who has newspapers. They have the Cannon Beach Gazette, they have the Tillamook Headlight Herald, Clatskanie Chief, and we got something set up with them, and they rolled out social media ad on Facebook yesterday, and I follow or I like the Clatskanie Chief, and it popped up there, and it's a great ad, and it popped up again this morning on my feed. So very nice, and people are already liking the post. So good outreach. So with that, Kathy, are you ready to go? Oh boy, I'm not seeing Kathy. Kathy disappeared from us. Now let's give us a minute here. Oh, her computer just crashed.
Shall we just kind of move on until she gets back on?
I think that's fine. Yeah,
Okay.
let's do that.
All right, so any correspondence?
Yes, I do have one piece of correspondence, and grab the letter here. This is the letter from the National Transit Assistance Program. We call it shortened RTAP, RTAP. So, dear Jeff, I'm pleased to inform you that Sunset Empire Transportation District has received an honorable mention for the National RTAP's 2021 photo contest, Buses Are Beautiful. We received a fantastic response of over 60 amazing photos this year, and Paul Lewicki's photo has been chosen based on its outstanding depiction of creativity, composition, technical quality, and showcasing a beautiful bus within this year's theme, Buses Are Beautiful. It's amazing how the illustrations of Oregon's majestic trees on the bus wrap look exactly like the trees in the background of the photo. Paul's other photos are also stunning, and you should be proud of your beautiful buses and talented staff. We look forward to using all of the photographs received in our future publications and on our website and social media. For your honorable mention prize, we are awarding a $25, they said gift card, it was actually a check, to the district, and thank you for your participation. And let me pop up the picture in case you haven't seen it, or I'll show you which one it is if you have seen it, because like they said, Paul did a wonderful job with this. And can you see that?
Oh,
Yeah.
nice.
Yeah,
That is
that's one of our newest buses, the Gilligs. We got two of them. They were remanufactured by Custom Coachworks. And we're just getting a lot of positive feedback about them, how nice they are. The drivers love them, the riders love them, and they just look fantastic. They're beautiful. Mary did a good job of setting up wraps many years ago, for our, current buses, but to have a big, long bus like this, I mean, it's striking. So, kudos to her too, for doing that. So anyway, we got honorable mention. He's entered another contest. I believe that was through Special Districts Association. So we'll see if we get to win some more. So that was correspondence that we got. Oh, and here, let me do one more thing. Stop the share. And we also got a nice plaque that says honorable mention. National RTAP 2021 Buses Are Beautiful Photo Contest, Sunset Empire Transportation District, and then Paul the Wiki photographer. So I guess he's not our COO anymore. He's our official photographer. So anyway, good job, Paul.
All right. Very nice. Very nice.
Yeah.
Hey, do you want to go ahead and do your report?
Sure. So I talked about the photo award. I guess first, any questions? Our ridership, we still were running up, but that was, and I forgot to update the sentence at the beginning. So we were up 12% or 5% in August. So, that was before we had to make the cuts. Those cuts were effective on September 6th. So, anyway, mentioned microtransit. ODOT had 3 solid days of hour after hour of trainings at the end of August and beginning of September that staff attended. We also attended, those of us that deal with the National Transit Database. 'Tis the season, as we like to say. That we have to input all of our data into the National Transit Database. And it was a good training. You always tend to pick up something from those. And it was good for Kelly too, because he's obviously new and hasn't dealt with NTD before. And like Debbie, I attended the SDA board and staff training webinar. I did mention the Seaside office. I haven't got an updated agreement, but he was willing to change it to a new 3-year agreement rather than a 5-year, because 5 years, that wouldn't make sense. And that way we don't have to move again. So he didn't bat an eye about doing that, because, as a commercial property owner, you want people to stick around, and we were there through the whole pandemic, and we're paying our rent even when we weren't open for a month down there. So he appreciates us as a leasee. The last thing in there, the offender reentry program. I talked about this before. This is really rolling rapidly. We had a nationwide call yesterday that Julia Castillo, who wrote the original blog that got me all fired up, she's out of HERDA, the Heart of Iowa Transportation Authority. And she came up with a new name, which I really appreciate, because I've been racking my brains, because I don't want to have a negative connotation, like ex-cons on buses or something like that. That wouldn't be good. But she came up with a term called returning citizens. And I like that, because that doesn't tie anything up with anybody being incarcerated and then getting released or put on parole. It was a great conversation. It was interesting. Julie talked first about what they're doing in Iowa, and it almost line for line matched up what I'm looking at here in Oregon. Both on a statewide program working with the Department of Corrections and DMV to set up a training program within the walls of the prisons. And not all of them, obviously, it'd be the lower level ones probably. We'll try to figure that out with the Department of Corrections where it would be appropriate. And then get the people trained to get their CDLs while they're incarcerated. And I think I mentioned before maybe I didn't, I can't remember all my timelines, but I met with one company that has bus simulators. And the one was that I really like is just fantastic. It's a total 360-degree around the person while they're in the driver cockpit. And in the cockpit, you've got all the controls there. You can feel like if you were to hit a chuck hole or pothole or bump a curb, you're going to feel that while you're in the simulator. And you're going to see everything around you because the screens that are around you, there's 10 of them and they're 85-inch screens. So in 70 different scenarios. So like if you're pulling up to a curb, you're going to open the door and you can look there and you can see the people getting on your bus, and then you can watch them go to the passenger area and take their seat. You'll be able to see all that in your mirror. So, I mean, it's really high tech. So anyway, the call was, just pretty much getting information out about what we're looking at doing. And it was very well received by everybody. People, they were very interested in it. Oregon was represented very well. We had several transit agencies there, plus almost all of our regional transit coordinators, including Arla. She was on yesterday too. So there's a lot of interest in it. That we decided that we're going to keep meeting. I suggested that we don't meet monthly because we're not going to have anything to really present next month. But we agreed that we'll start off like every other month. So we've already got a date in November set to share what progress that we've made in what we're doing. And I'm meeting with the sheriff and parole and probation to see what we can set up locally. Cinda Bruce down in Lincoln County, when I talked to her, she got all excited about it also. She talked with their parole and probation person. They're excited about it. They've already identified one person that's one of their clients or whatever they're called that would be a good fit. And so Cinda's going to be pursuing that. And so we'll be talking the same with our parole and probation people and the sheriff about it also. And then also I mentioned in there that the Northwest Oregon Works, which is the Workforce Investment Board, they channel all the Department of Labor money that comes to the state. They're very interested in it, so they're going to be at the table as well. And interesting enough, this is one of the things that Julia is doing too. Their workforce investment boards are getting involved with it in Iowa as well. So a lot of interest, a lot of excitement. I can't wait until October 4th to meet with the Department of Corrections to see, what can be done, what can't be done, and look at rolling it out. Jamie Baldwin, the training coordinator for ODOT, she sent me a link after the meeting yesterday of an article down in Florida. Florida actually worked with the trucking industry and they set this up down there. And it had a great picture of a whole bunch of people that went through the program and they were at their graduation. I think there was like 25 of them, and the superintendent of prisons was there. They did a big splash on it. And so it's nice to know that there's, this has been done before. There's a model that we can look at and, maybe tap into. One thing I shared yesterday is I'm going to be selfish about this. When we set up a statewide program, if we end up using, public transportation division monies within the prisons, this is going to be strictly for transit drivers. It's not going to be necessarily just a CDL training platform for all forms. If we're investing the money, we need the drivers. So I'm going to be selfish about that. So anyway, excited about that. I'll continue to be talking about this quite a bit.
Thanks, Jeff. Tracy? Oops, you're on mute.
You're on mute, Tracy.
There you go.
There you go.
I just wanted to share, I talked with our area rep in the aisles at Home Depot the other day, and just very proud of what Jeff's doing. It's a good item. We need to stay on it, and don't get discouraged because we're working with politicians. And
No, I don't want to. You know, and I really think the politicians will be want to be a part of this. I mean, Senator Johnson, she already knows about this. She's excited about the program. So yeah, I agree. And we're going to be, you know, we're going to be very upfront about this program, that we're doing this not just to help us, we're doing it to help people. You know, and that's what we do. We help people get from point A to point B. Why can't we help people who get out of prison with a CDL and walk into a transit job that's good paying and has benefits? I mean, it's just phenomenal. Not everybody is going to qualify for it. You know, there are going to be certain parameters that that they'll have to meet to be part of the program. But it's, you know, so we get somebody into a good job and, you know, working for a transit agency, wherever they have to go to. And then that lessens the recidivism rate, you know, so it won't become a revolving door because right now it is. So anything we can do to, you know, help those
get
individuals,
away from it.
I think is great. So, you know, we'll have a lot of, you know, positive things to say about it ahead of time. We'll be straightforward about it. You know, this is what we're doing. So people aren't concerned, you know, about, oh my gosh, they're hiring ex-cons. So I know we're hiring people that have paid their debt to society for a mistake, and maybe it was a stupid mistake that they made and had to pay their time. You know, they need to be successful coming out, and we can help them be successful. You know, and transit buses are perfect because, you know, we're federally governed, so we have a drug and alcohol policy. So there's random testing involved. We also have a lot of cameras on the buses. You know, so we're constantly, you know, we're able to monitor those cameras, and we can, you know, see what the drivers are doing. So a lot of safeguards in place. So, thank you, Tracy.
It's a great idea. Jeff, if you're done, I see Kathy's back. Shall we go back?
Yeah,
to
Kathy
Kathy
is back. So why don't we pop back to her?
We see you now.
Can we hear
Crossing
you?
my fingers. I
There you
am crossing
go.
my fingers. Okay. So I'm back and I have a presentation for you. So I'm going to share my screen, and hopefully some of those questions, Tracy, that you had, and Pamela, maybe that you have, will be answered after this presentation. Please work. Okay. Can you see my presentation? Awesome.
Yes.
All right, so we're here talking about Get There Challenge, and Get There Oregon has this challenge, and it's an annual challenge. We are encouraged during this time to develop some new habits. Please work. Come on, computer. I'm trying not to push buttons too much so that it doesn't crash on me. Okay, so who is this challenge for? It's for anyone that is age 18 or older who lives or works in Oregon. And so the challenge is available for people that take trips by bike, by car, by bus, by themselves in the car. I mean, you can do the challenge. You're not going to earn any points by driving in your car, but there's other ways that you can be part of the challenge. Why should you do the challenge? Other than that it is a good thing that makes Oregon a better place? Well, everybody likes a little something for their efforts. And so you can win prizes. And you should be able to see this picture hopefully now, where you can earn prizes such as an electric bike. Jason, do you need a new bike? He can show you how to use an electric bike. Jeff, would that get you to ride a bike if you got an electric bike? Come on, we know you want to ride that bike. But here's the deal. There's Wi-Fi boosters, there's gift cards, there's thermoflasks. Last year we had a board member that won a prize, so you too could win a prize. It doesn't take a lot to win a prize. It's pretty darn easy, but the first step is that you have to go to the website. You have to go to gettherooregon.org. Thank you, Tracy. Thank you, Pamela, for going there already. I know there's a couple people that have already signed up. If you signed up last year and you haven't used it since then, and you don't remember your password, give me a call. I can help you with that. We can reset that password. So you're going to go to this website, then you're going to click this login sign up button. And once you do that, you will create an account. And when you log in, you will notice that you are effectively logged in, because it will say, "Hi, Debbie," or "Hi, Tracy," and you'll be in. And then you go to your dashboard. So this is kind of, it tells you the big information. Not a whole lot changes, but you can see that there's a dashboard button there. Click the dashboard, and there you go. So you're in and you're looking at your dashboard, and to make it easy, you enter in your regular commute trips. When you click it, the edit trip button, which is at the top there in the dark blue, right underneath the long blue bar, you then will have a pop-up window where you put in your trip information. So you put in your normal commute, if that's what it is, and then you click the little tab button for that. And there's all kinds of little other settings here that you can set depending upon how regular the trip is, or if it's a one-time trip, just click the one-time button and then you're good to go. So then here's what it looks like if you click the one-time button. You can set up the carpool. All of these things can set up. So both of those steps are time savers when you go to click and log your trips. You can always update that and do a spur of the moment change. And you decided to run an errand at lunch instead, or you didn't do that commute. You can change your trips. And this is where you change that. You scroll down a little bit further in that window and it says log your trips. So in the top upper section is your carpools, and then you can log your trips. So if you have a trip that you entered in the edit trip section, then it will show up as a favorite trip. So you can just select it and it'll input all the information. If not, then you can change your endpoint and your destination at any point in time. Then here's the fun part. You can choose whatever mode of transportation that you use. So if you drove in your car one day by yourself, you can log it that way. But if on the next day you decided to attend your meeting remotely like this, well, then that's remote work. So you click that and you then log the mileage as if you would have driven there, and then make sure you click and highlight which days you took the trip, and then you log your trips, and it gives you credit for those trips. And then on your right there, you'll see your savings add up. So the miles that you've taken, the miles that you've saved, the dollars that you've saved, the gas that you've saved, the carbon emissions that you've saved are all tracked up in that right-hand section there. When the challenge goes live, you'll also see more achievements, and the challenge information will also be in your right there. So there, speaking of achievements, those are the other ways that you can earn points during the challenge. So it's not only about trips and logging trips during the challenge. If you click on those achievements, you'll see that there's ways that you can earn points without ever leaving your house. So there's videos that you can watch about boosting your Wi-Fi, about being a safe driver, pictures that you can take a picture of art in your community that you've seen, of you on your bicycle, of you and your pet. There's all kinds of different achievements. Depends upon the achievements and the point. The achievement that you do will determine the points that you get. So when you click those and you complete those achievements, you'll get points. And each time you earn points, it makes you eligible to earn different prizes. Easy.
Okay.
Any
Sounds good.
questions?
No, it's pretty clear.
So I have all of those graphics, and I also am perfectly capable of talking you through those things at a distance. We can have our own private Zoom meeting. This is for you, the board, anybody on the staff, anybody out there listening to us in YouTube or Facebook land, because we are on YouTube today as well. Give me a call, drop me an email. Happy to help you get logged in and log those trips. Make this the best Get There challenge yet.
I have a question, Kathy.
Shoot.
How would you record chain tripping? So if you go downtown and you do 3 errands, you've parked your car
Mhm.
at a, so you've you organized your trips, so you use less miles traveled.
Mhm.
How do you record that?
So that would be, so you're going to log the part of your trip that you didn't drive in your car. So you would go in and you would record the walking distance. So you can guesstimate what the distance is between where you parked your car and where the furthest point that you walked out to, and then log that trip. And then you make it a round trip so that you're going back to your car and put in the miles. So I've logged my walking the dog. If I walk my dog down to the beach, I will log the walk as a walk, the distance from where I started to the beach, and then I log that trip, and then I log it as a round trip. And then I'm going back. And so then when you go to your calendar, you will see you fill in the information in that information square. Let's see if I can get back to the right. So in this square, you'll put in your trip from when you customize the trip, you can put in your starting point and your ending point, and then the distance. And then over here, your mode of travel would be walk. And the reason would be recreation or shopping, or I think that there's an errands in there that in the drop-down list that you can choose. And then you click on the calendar for which days. If you do it every day for a week, well, then you click on all 5 days. Or if it's just the weekends, you click on those 2 weekends, and then you go to that log the trips button. Where did it go? Why did it go away? There. Just make sure you save you log your trips there, and it will log them. Does that answer your question?
Why is it possible to record them as if you did 3 errands in a parked car, to log it as 3 trips? Because a lot of vehicle miles traveled is just going back and forth. So this, by train tripping, you save air pollution and that sort of thing.
Sure. So then you log each one of those as an individual trip.
Okay.
But not by car, by yourself. You would then log it as a walk or as a remote trip if you did 3 meetings in a row or things like that kind of a thing.
So if I use the car, then I can't log it?
Well, you don't log that part of the trip.
Okay.
You can log car trips, you just won't earn points for the car trips by yourself.
But saving trips, saving 2 trips, does that count?
If you're in a car by yourself, no.
No, if you didn't use your car, you would have used your car 3 times.
Mm-hmm.
So if you chain trip, you're only using your car once,
Mm-hmm.
doing walking to
Mm-hmm.
your other destinations.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the system is set up that if you are going to use your car by yourself, those trips don't earn points. So you want to log those separate errands, the errands part where you're combining them into different trips, the walking part.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Deanna, did you have a question?
I do. So from what I'm understanding from what you're saying, that it's only about when you're not in the car by yourself. So if I'm working from home and I'm not doing that commute to go to work every day, that doesn't count?
No, so that's a remote work trip.
That does count.
That does count. So you log the miles as if you were driving, but you count it as a remote work trip.
Got
So
it.
in your means of transportation drop down, you choose remote work.
And so that would count for every day of the week that I
Yep.
work from home?
Yep.
Cool.
Yeah, so for instance, and I need to get better at logging my trips. I haven't done it in a while. But really I need to log them every single day, whether I'm driving to work in my truck by myself, I log that. But if I work from home, I'll log that day that I worked from home. And so during the challenge, that by working remotely and not being in my single occupancy vehicle, that's going to earn me points for the challenge. But beyond the challenge, you really want to get in the habit of doing this all year long, every day, because by doing that chart over there on the right-hand side showing the benefits that you've gotten, how much money you've saved on fuel, your carbon footprint reduction, all those kind of things. Looking at that number at the end of the year will be very, very impressive. And it really, it gets you to think about, how can I go from point A to point B? Do I need to drive there? Can I carpool with somebody? And those kind of things. There may be days that I decide, I'm gonna take the Lower Columbia Connector into work. And I've done that before. And taking it home then as well. So that would be, a transit trip. So it's really endless of what you can do. You won't see me riding a bike to work. You won't see me walking to work. That probably wouldn't be too efficient for me. And I'm definitely not skating to work. There's no way I'm going to skate.
I did a little short presentation for the Columbia County Commission, and their question was, does horseback riding count? And absolutely it counts. And so, yeah, you can log that trip as well and you would get points for it. So the numbers that you see on here in the savings column are real. Those are my trips logged. Those are my trips logged. That is the money that I have saved since starting the Get There Oregon account. And that's significant. I mean, that's a real amount of money that I feel like and it's not just gas savings. It may say that it's car expenses. So insurance, wear and tear, gas, those kinds of things. And it makes a big difference. So yeah, really highly encourage people to get in there, because it really is an eye opener when you see those dollars start to add up. And I do drive in my car by myself sometimes. Yes.
Do we include this meeting as remote or not?
Absolutely, yes. So the mileage between your house and the transit center is your location. That's your miles. So, all right.
And they do make it easy. Correct me if I'm wrong, Kathy, your starting point, you put in your address, and your destination point, you put in the address. So it knows the mileage. So you don't have to calculate it yourself.
Yes. The only time that you would change that is if you're putting in a trip and you're running multiple errands, so that you can kind of guess how far you walked.
Yeah, like for Pamela,
Right.
Starting at Union Station, maybe parking there or taking the bus in and then walking up to Nordstrom's.
Right.
That's a trip I would take. By putting that Nordstrom's in, it would have the addresses. So
Okay.
It's a great tool, easy to use tool, really easy to use.
And I'm here to help. If somebody has a hard time, or, figuring out those things to start out with can be challenging and on itself. And so just let me know, and I'm happy to help. I'm happy to jump in and we can do our own little Zoom meeting and I can walk you through how to do the things. So happy to help.
Kathy.
And we start October 4th.
Yes.
4th through the 17th.
Yes.
Yeah.
2-week period. So your trips have to be logged by the 17th.
Okay.
And I believe that there is a week 1 raffle and then a week 2 raffle. So you have 2 raffles and then there's the big raffle. So.
Okay.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Kathy.
Madam Chair, before we move on to leadership reports, could you go back to me?
Sure, why not?
I just want to share with you one thing that we always talk about in public transportation. It's not about competition, it's about collaboration. And you know, what we do with Facebook and now YouTube is great. I just got an email a little bit ago from one of my colleagues in Eastern Oregon, and she's been watching your meeting. And she sent me an email and she goes, "This morning I'm listening in on your board meeting. I love the participation that you get from all of your board members." I thought that was a very nice comment. And then she heard something that I had been talking about and she requested if I could send her a copy of what I was talking about. And that's what we do. Rather than reinventing the wheel, if somebody has something that they've set up a policy or a procedure, we're constantly going back and forth, collaborating with each other to get information so we don't have to start from scratch. And it was just so nice to get an email during the meeting that somebody in Eastern Oregon is watching you guys. That's it.
Thanks, Jeff.
But Jeff, she didn't comment on how good looking Tracy and I are.
I didn't see a comment like that.
Good one, Charles. Okay. All right. So we will continue and move on to leadership reports. And Paul, our new photographer, would you like to start?
Yes, thank you, and good morning. As Jeff mentioned, we're anticipating the short period of time we have to compile and enter and submit the reports of our data to the NTD, National Transportation Database. We're assessing our progress with our new reduced service schedules. It seems to be going all right. I know we all feel a little diminished by the fact that we're not at full strength, but feedback from the drivers is good. I have not had much negative feedback from the riders. I feel that as a community, we all sense the situation that we're in and are tolerating it for the good of us all. And I'm close to submitting the RFQ for the new buses to replace our motor coaches on the connector route to Portland. I have a copy of the report that I submitted, and if you have any questions about this or anything else we're doing in operations, perhaps I can answer those.
Anybody?
Yeah, I had a question, Paul. Hi.
Hi.
So I was interested in the bus stop move in front of the entrance of the armory. So moving
Yes.
that, I have never seen what the stop there looks like. Is there just like a pole? Is there an actual
There's no shelter.
No shelter.
No.
So it was just
There's
like kind
a-
of moving that pole and telling riders this is where we're gonna stop now.
Yes, there's a sign, there's a pole, and there's a yellow curve. And that's just
Good.
being moved about 200 feet east to get out of the way of that entrance.
Nice. Did we make that change from riders' comments, or like how do we get to come to that decision?
I actually received a call from a board member who asked that we look into doing that because there was a safety issue while they were having events there during the pre-pandemic summer. And people were being let out of vehicles across the street from the armory and running across the street to the armory because the bus zone was kind of in the way of them using that with their private vehicles. So this just helps the safety of that
Definitely.
situation.
I think it's cool. Thank you.
Good, thank you. Okay,
All right.
thank you.
Paul, I
Chrissy.
just like to make a comment. I've observed the new 101 bus routes in action, and they really do look nice. And several riders that come into the shop there have said, boy, I just feel like I'm riding on a coach. And I said, well, you are. That's a coach. And so, so they're very happy with it. So
Thank you. We're very proud to put those out every day.
Yeah.
Thanks, Paul.
Thank you.
Jennifer, would you like to go next?
Hello, board. Happy Thursday. Fun fact about myself. I was a school bus driver before I worked at Sunset Empire Transportation. And sadly, I did the math this morning. I've had my license for almost 20 years. No, I was not 18 when I acquired it. But I did decide, to keep my CDL once I worked got a job with Sunset Empire as in the office. It is very difficult to acquire your CDL, so I did not want to give it up. And oftentimes did at first help with the paratransit if somebody had to go home and so I did get to drive the new Gillig up to the Astor column when Paul took his picture. So I got to enjoy the drive, chauffeuring Paul and Scott around as we got to take pictures. And I can attest to the comfort of the vehicle as a driver, sitting in that seat, driving it down the highway. It is very comfortable. And so we all do appreciate that vehicle, and it is beautiful to watch it drive down the road. So as a driver, I can attest it is a nice bus. So. And my short and sweet board report, I would like to piggyback off of Paul's also, because we've been working hard together, learning and working on different projects, and still learning the driver supervisors and still working in the paratransit world. But it's been busy and active around here. Anybody have any questions? This is good.
Thank you, Jennifer.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Jason.
Good morning, everybody. It's a pleasure to see all of you, and glad to be here to be able to talk about my report if there are any questions. But I'd like to highlight that very first part of my board report, which was such an exciting time to be able to visit with the teenagers from Astoria High School. You'll notice that there's more writers that I have listed as being travel trained, because I had a special opportunity to spend time with summer classes. And towards the end of the summer, they had the kind of life courses and all that kind of stuff. And they asked me to come and visit with them. And it was a pleasure. It was a lot of fun. And there was a lot of great questions. And all those questions, really, I can boil it down into, really kind of comes into this. It's a basic, simple question that I can answer yes, you can with. All right. So also from that, that's kind of what I developed as my next video project. You'll start seeing people filming, and you may see a trailer at some point in time. It's called Yes, You Can. I wanted to highlight yeah.
Could I take a bus from the transit center down to Seaside for lunch?
Yes, you can. I
Okay,
don't
good.
know. I mean, maybe the board wants to get involved, I mean, can you take a trip from the transit center down to Tillamook? I mean, that's a pretty good question. I don't know if anybody wants to answer that. Go for it.
Yes, you can.
Anyways,
Yes, you can.
yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So I look forward to doing that project. I think it'd be a lot of fun. And if any of you would like to be a part of that campaign, just let me know. Let Jeff know that you'd like me to come record you saying yes, you can to something that our services can do. I think you'll really like the video project when it's all done. So anyhow, other than that, is there any questions that you may have for me?
Can I take an ice cream cone on the bus? When I go down
Can
to
you-
Tillamook,
Can
can
you-
I go down to Tillamook at the creamery and when I get to the creamery, can I put the ice cream on the bus?
Oh my gosh, now we're getting to semantics, but you can get to the creamery.
Yes.
Whether, yes, so if you want to go to the creamery, let's go, all of us. We can all just hop on
Okay.
the bus and go to the creamery.
Sounds good to me. I'll go.
Yeah,
I'm in.
good.
Jason, if you need, to participate in this project, I'm happy to do any Spanish recordings that you want to do so that we can have the yes, you can. Si
Cool.
puedes in Spanish. That would be fantastic. So count me in.
Okay, I will be talking to you. Thank you, Diana.
All right. Okay, thanks, Jason.
Thank you, everybody.
We'll move on to Kathy. Are you there, Kathy?
Trying.
Okay.
Come on, computer. I feel like my hamster is getting a little tired today. All the different things it's trying to do. I get to be on camera twice today. So you saw my board report. It has been gear up time for the Get There Challenge. I've worked with Mary just recently, and with Jeff's help, we have gotten the Get There Challenge posted all over the place. And hopefully any of you that are on social media or looking at newspapers online or in paper will see an advertisement. I'd love it if when you see those, no matter how many times you see them, you click like every time, every single time, so that those get boosted organically, and then share them, because that would be fantastic, so that we can get the word out and get this to be our biggest Get There Challenge in our region ever. So we're on track. So with all of you joining and creating an account and then pushing it out there to your networks, that's how we make this the best event yet here. Lots of stuff going on in the TO world. Does anybody have any questions for me? Deanna.
About the promote bicycle safety and awareness billboards, where are they in Tillamook and Newport? Are they on the highway or where are they?
They are on the highway. In Tillamook, they are south of the creamery in that stretch of road. It's just south of Fred Meyer. Trying to think of what's in that parking lot there now. I can't remember because things have moved around a little bit. But it's right there on the highway. And then in Newport, it's right by the state park entrance.
Cool. Do you have a picture of what they look like?
Not right offhand. I think I showed it last meeting. Jeff, you don't have that handy right now, do you? I will look for it while the next report is coming up and see if I can find it. But yeah, it's a great one. It's a great one. The other thing that there's, bicycle and pedestrian safety campaign, Jason is handily showing off, and his background there is the Safe Routes to School Drive Like It campaign. Yes, right there. And you should start to see those signs popping up all over the place as well. It's Drive Like It, and one side is in English and the other side is in Spanish. And it is to teach people that school routes are everywhere. And so our kids in the area are out and they're walking and biking to school. Schools have bus driver shortages too. COVID-19 is encouraging lots of people to figure out new ways to get to and from school. So drive like your kids are around. So school routes are everywhere. Drive like it. That's the campaign. So, yep. Any other questions? Oh, yay, Jeff, you found it. That is what the billboard looks like.
Okay.
Very cool.
Very cool.
Nice, really cool. Okay.
I wanted to comment too, Kathy, that I noticed the new striping and signing and separating of the road down to the base and down on Wahana intersection. it now puts the left-hand turn lane there. If we can just get people to remind themselves of that traffic change of pattern, instead of being in the middle of the two lanes, they would be in the left or right lane, because we still are having quite a degree of individual vehicle traffic up there. It's really bad, and sometimes between hours of 7 and 8. So,
Yes. So Seaside was a recipient of a Safe Routes to School planning grant. And so there is Safe Routes to School planning going on there right now. There will actually be a walk audit of the routes to school there on November 17th, I believe is the date that will be out there. And there'll be some outreach. I'll be sending out information that you're welcome to help get out the information to parents on feedback. There'll be an open house once the preliminary plans are developed and those pieces of information go out. So that is still a work in progress. Those are initial hopes to help with safety around there, but it's very preliminary. There is definitely a lot more work that is planned there to help make those routes safer.
it'll get there if we all do it.
Exactly.
All right. Thank you, Kathy.
Anything else? Okay. I'm going to go to the background again.
All right. Thanks, Kathy. Mary,
Yes,
looks like you've been busy.
I have. Spent a lot of time in my car and going up and down the highway. I was just down in Tillamook and at the creamery, posting the at their challenge. Yeah, at all the shelters down there. Very fragrant this time of year down there.
Yes.
It's like,
Yeah.
I remember, the Schwan man remembers, yes.
but also beautiful, fall, wonderful. And basically been working a lot with our schedule changes, getting those up and down and up and down. And now we're back to just having our schedules that we're using. I also have been working on just trying to get more information out, posting more on our Facebook, and then updating the Where's My Bus posters in Spanish and English, got them up, refreshed those, put them in Spanish and English on one form so it easily fits in the shelters. And thank you for your input on that. Yeah. And then I guess that's, if you have any questions, just love the new pictures of that Paul had taken. Beautiful, beautiful picture. Love it. Can't wait to use it.
I know I need to go write it on it too. So, all right. Thank you, Mary. And last but not least, Sue.
Hello.
Hi, Sue.
So any questions on my report? We hired our second transportation support specialist. We eliminated the position of operations assistant. Brilliant idea of Jeff's to have 3 transportation support specialists so that they can all cover the Astoria Transit Center, Seaside Transit Center, or come to Warrenton. So that was a great idea. And from those interviews, I actually have interest from an African-American applicant who is super interested, and he picked up his driving manual, his Washington driving manual, and he's very interested in getting his CDLB and coming to work for us. So I'm looking forward to that happening. So any questions?
Not seeing any. Thank you, Sue.
Thank you.
Right. That looks like the conclusion of our meeting today. Mary, go ahead.
Yes, I was wondering if we could talk about Commissioner Romero, if he wanted to vote on the minutes, or if I should just leave him not voting on the minutes. Because he was
Oh.
available.
So, Guillermo, we did vote and passed the minutes. Do you want to go ahead and vote to pass the minutes as they were presented?
Yes, I give a yay.
Okay, thank you.
Thank
Thank you, Mary. Okay, if there's nothing else, Charles, look at that. We're just a couple minutes past 11, so we got you out on time for your meeting, for your next meeting.
Hope you didn't rush for me. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks, everybody, for your hard work. And don't forget to get signed up for the thing. I'm going to do that right now. And I can ride the bike. I just thought of this. I can ride, somebody loaned me a bike. I can ride it down to the Sunset Bakery and get me a donut. So that's what I'm going to be doing.
It too.
So, okay. Not that I need the donut, but still. All right. See you everybody next month. Stay
Thanks,
safe.
everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.